Sepik River, Papua New Guinea, 1932. The river is wide here, wide enough to lose the other bank in the morning haze. It moves slow and brown, carrying stealth from the highlands down towards the sea, unhurried, indifferent. Along its banks, the Ayatmal people have lived for centuries. They fish, they trade, they build their villages on stilts above the water. And they worship the crocodile, the ancient animal that was here before man arrived and still owns the river, that surfaces and disappears, leaving a quiet ripple moving outward, slow and relentless, until the water is still again. For the Ayatmal, the crocodile is not just an animal, it is the origin. Their mythology says that humans descended from crocodiles, that at some point the creature left the river and became a man, which means that becoming a man for them isn't just a metaphor, it's a return to that shape. Now the boys have been gone for weeks, taken from their mothers, from the village, from everything familiar. They have been living in the spirit house, the tall and wooden structure at the center of the village that women cannot enter, where the elders teach them what it means to carry the name of their clans, what it means to be responsible for others and becoming adults. And now the crossing happens. One by one they are laid down. An elder moves with the precision of someone who has done this 1,000 times, the same way his father did and his father before him. He opens their skin in long curved lines, across the chest, down the arms, along the back, replicating the scales of the crocodile. The cuts are packed with mud and medicinal herbs, so the scars rise permanently. The boy doesn't scream, screaming is not the point. The point is that he is being ingested, passing through the body of the crocodile, dying as a boy and reborn as something else. The marks on his skin for the rest of his life will be proof that he crossed, that he survived the threshold, and he belongs to the adult society. Decades later, the anthropologist Gregory Bateson will try to understand what held communities like this together. What created the bond between these men that made them function as a something more than a collection of individuals? What he found wasn't shared goals, it wasn't talent, it was a shared threshold. The fact they had all passed through the same fire, the same difficulties or symbolic death, and came out the other side with the same marks on their skin. He had no idea he was describing the dynamics of modern companies' team-building processes, or rather, those most companies forgot to design. That's what this episode is about. Not a team-building exercise, not a culture deck, the invisible culture that makes people feel they belong, and what happens when no one bothers to build it. By the end, you will have one sentence that changes how someone on your team performs, a framework for when to let people fail and when to stop everything, and the reason why the teams that survive a crisis together become almost impossible to break apart. This is Walk the Talk Essays. Let's dive in. Coyle opens the culture code with a question that sounds almost too simple. Why do some groups consistently outperform others, even when the talent is roughly the same? And what he found is this. The highest performing groups are not defined by the smartest people in the room. They are defined by the signals those people send each other, constantly, almost unconsciously, that answer one single question. Am I safe here? Think about that. Am I safe here? He calls these belonging cues. And they're not what you would expect. They're not mission statements. They are tiny. Eye contact that lasts for a second longer than necessary. A lot of questions that say, I'm genuinely interested in what you think. A laugh that is real, and physical proximity. These signals respond to the ancestral need to feel safe, to assess potential threats, and they share three fundamental qualities. Energy, they foster mutual exchange. The second, individualization, the person is treated as unique and valuable. And the third, future orientation, a sign that the relationship will continue. They say basically, we are connected without even a word. Think about that. By the time you've opened your mouth in a meeting, people around you have already received signals about whether they are safe with you or not. We mentioned eye contact and physical proximity, for example. If someone shows belonging cues, says Coyle, the group works well. If they show signals of trouble, the group starts to become less cohesive and performs less effectively. As John Maxwell put it, people do what people see. They follow the example of good or bad apples. They follow the shared energy. This pairs perfectly with Frank Badger's suggestion in How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling, that if you want to inspire and share enthusiasm, act with enthusiasm. So, in your next meeting, who are you going to be? An energy giver or an energy taker? Quick note on energy. The word comes from the Greek en ergon, meaning in work, into action, as if to suggest that it can be derived from our work on something. But what if I'm feeling down? Where does energy start? If it comes from working, we can find it starting to do something, not before. Belonging cues are not the result of success, but the cause that leads to it. But here's the thing about groups. Many teams are full of potential energy. They have the talent, the IQ, the stars, but they're stuck. And why? Because they don't feel safe to try, to speak, to share their talented ideas and generate motion. Coyle shows that belonging cues could be a spark that turns that potential into flowing kinetic energy. While on the other side, enthusiasm comes from en, which is in, and theos, God, like to have a God inside. This means to recognize having the ability to create something and to start doing it. It's that voice that stops asking, what should I do? And starts asking, what could I create here? What could I do to change my situation, to change this place? This is the root of enthusiasm, knowing to have creative and transformative power. So the concept that by getting active we will actually generate more energy confirms what William Danforth, the founder of Purina, suggested, that what we share also grows within us. Looking for energy in others, start sharing it, and it will multiply. So here's the thing. These signals of safety have to be reinforced over and over again. Why? Because our brains are ancient machines, constantly scanning the room for potential threats. And you need a steady loop of cues that say, we are connected, we are safe here, and we have a future together. And I mean, a promising future. Well, we've all seen those corporate cultures where if you mess up or even dare to ask for help, your career is essentially dead. In a place like that, psychological safety, that concept by Amy Edmondson we will dive into in future episodes, just doesn't exist. You lose that fail fast, learn fast vibe that is the lifeblood of any successful startup. And here's the question that kept me up while I was reading Coyle. This fail fast thing sounds great for a Pixar or in a creative studio, but what if you are in a pharma lab, or in a hospital, or if you are a NASA engineer in 2003 and a piece of foam just hit the shuttle's wing? In this last case, the Columbia engineers knew. They had the data. They asked the right questions in the wrong channels. An engineer, Rodney Rocha, asked if the astronauts could do a spacewalk to check the damage, and he never got the answer. 7 people died during re-entry. And the problem wasn't the lack of talent or IQ. It was that the organizational climate made it impossible for bad news to travel up before it became a disaster. It's what they call the normalization of deviance. That moment when a real risk starts feeling normal just because we've gotten used to living with it without immediate consequences. So, how do you apply fail fast when a failure is irreparable? The key is realizing that not all mistakes are created equal. Psychological safety looks different depending on the type of error. The first, critical errors. In an operating room, you don't praise the mistake. You praise the person who stops the process before it happens. You reward the one who raises a hand and says something doesn't feel right, even if they aren't 100% sure. This only happens if they know that stopping the line won't cost them their job. That's psychological safety, the freedom to be wrong about stopping everything to save a life. The second, inevitable errors. These happens despite our best efforts. They require extreme ownership, Jocko Willing would say, and a solid after-action review. It's about squeezing every bit of learning out of the situation without looking for a scapegoat. And third, tactical errors. This is where you want to fail. You test new ideas in a safe zone to gather data. A healthy culture should actively encourage this. Here, psychological safety means knowing you can be wrong about moving forward. The point isn't to praise the error itself, and it's not just about rewarding the person who admits it. The real goal is building a climate of radical candor, a place where bad news travels fast, where stopping a process, raising a doubt, or saying I don't know is just a normal, expected, and rewarded part of the job. But here's the question most managers never ask before they start leading. What is this team actually trying to do? Execute or invent? Proficiency or creativity? Because the answer changes everything. When we talk about proficiency, we're talking about being as reliable as a machine. It's about doing the same task perfectly every single time. To lead here, you need to be the architect of clarity. You build a purpose by providing a clear map, specific checkpoints, and models of excellence. It's all about high repetition, literally building myelin around their neurons. It's the exact mindset of a top athlete who has spent years preparing the same race until they know every inch of the track by heart. But then there's creativity. This isn't about perfecting a knowing path. It's about stimulating the production of something that has never existed before. In this case, your role shifts. You aren't an architect. You are the support crew for an exploratory expedition into the unknown. Your job is to reassure, to support, and to encourage people to wander in different directions without the fear of making a mistake. You have to feed their autonomy and keep those touch points constant. In this environment, the key is to celebrate the initiative, not just the number of repetitions. You celebrate the act of starting, not just the checklist of finishing. Most of our teams have both of these souls living inside them. The real skill is identifying which zone you are in and proposing the right kind of leadership for each one. There's no single right way to lead. The situational approach depends entirely on what the task requires and where the person is in their development. This brings me to three of the most powerful managerial moves I've found. The first one is about feedback. Here we are again. The most effective thing a leader can say to someone isn't just great job, of course, or the generic good thing, specific bad thing, and generic good thing as in a sandwich framework. The most effective sentence is I'm telling you this because I have high expectations and I know you can reach them. That's it. Those few words completely flip the script. It's no longer an evaluation, it's an investment. You are telling them, I see you, I believe in you, and that's exactly why I'm asking for more. It turns you into an illuminator, as we discussed with David Brooks. The second is how you handle bad news. The moment someone brings you a problem or an error is the ultimate truth test for your team's culture. If you thank that person, the message is you can tell me everything. But if they're ignored, or even worse, punished, the message is it's your fault. From that point on, the bad news stops traveling up until it's too late, just like we saw with the Columbia disaster. Creating safety means rewarding the person who has the courage to be honest. The third one, picking up the trash. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, was famous for personally picking up trash in his restaurant parking lots. No joke, leaders who build elite cultures often handle the humblest tasks. By doing that, they send a very specific signal. No job is beneath me, and none of you are below me. There are no reserved parking spots, no VIP tables, no special privileges. There's only a common mission, and we are all here to serve it as citizens of the same village. That's worth pausing on. See you in the second part.